It's been said that in a story a man died and then comes back from the grave. But in the world of science fiction, that's something that happens more often than you might think. And this is a very familiar example. This is Star Trek Bring Back Kirk. Said about at some point after Star Trek Generations, and as you recall, Captain Kirk met his match in that movie. Well, in this, Captain Kirk's going to come back, and he's going to assist the Federation in a fight against one of the same enemies that Captain Archer fought during the Temporal Cold War. Legend has it that Bring Back Kirk was a scrapped idea for an episode of Enterprise. But if that's the case, I think the reason it was scrapped was because it might cause a continuity problem. Because Captain Archer, due to time travel, is also directly involved in this storyline. You see, this is set during the generation of post-Voyager era, and Captain Kirk has come back from the grave, and this is about 100 years after his generation. And Captain Archer is being involved in something that happens 200 years later. So, if this actually became canon, there'd probably be a continuity problem. Then again, a good proportion of Star Trek Enterprise was based on time travel. They should have done. Rick Berman should have done this episode. Well, okay, so it starts off on Viridian 3. Spock realizes Kirk is not actually dead. So, he has the original Enterprise taken out of mothballs, and they go back to the Nexus ribbon where Spock believes Captain Kirk is. Sure enough, he's there, and he's able to convince Captain Kirk to come back to his position on the Enterprise. But then, as soon as that happens, the enemy from I think they're called the Suliban, launch a full-scale attack on the Federation. When that happens, Captain Kirk retaliates by rallying up as many Federation ships he can and launching an offensive. Well, that's the story in a 2-minute nutshell. Overall, I think it's pretty good. The visuals are really good for their time. The fact that the animators were able to Photoshop all the faces of the actors into the CGI images and make it work came out really, really well. I think they might have used their own models for this. I really can't tell if it's Eric Peterson's Enterprise A model or not, but yeah, it's cool. Captain Kirk used the Time Guardian again to find Captain Archer. And then Kirk and Spock in that same realm where Captain Sisko went in the Bajor wormhole. But once again, the Federation fleet. This I think, was taken right out of Deep Space Nine. The Federation fleet was mostly Galaxies, Excelsiors, and Mirandas. I honestly didn't like that. I felt like there should be some variation, like introduce a whole bunch of other Federation ships. And so this thing has its points of strength and weakness. The visuals are great. The storyline's fantastic. In all honesty, this should have been the Star Trek reboot. And need I add, when I first came up with space battles, this was what I was originally basing it on. And believe it or not, the thing that I did differently was, instead of the enemy from the Temporal Cold War, I came up with a new enemy that was named after something from the first Pac-Man World game, King Galaxian. If any of you remember that. Well, overall, that's my thoughts on Bring Back Kirk. It had all the hallmarks from Star Trek, up until Star Trek Enterprise. You see, this was a 2004 release. This was before the J.J. Abrams reboot. And yeah. Well, I've run out of things to say, so yeah, that's Bring Back Kirk for you. John Bachhofer, signing off.